Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is post-ATA, and one of the companies I went by and did a ATA Facebook Live was Burris Optics, and I met up with Logan Holtz. And Logan's been with Burris for about a year, and he's got some great stories, and I just wanted him to share what's so special about Burris Optics.
Yeah, Bruce. So like you said, I started with Burris about almost exactly a year ago, and there's definitely a reason I went over to Burris, and with what they have going on right now is really exciting. I mean, obviously they've got about a decade of experience with the laser-rangefinding optics with our Eliminator rifle scope, and now we've been able to kind of transition that into the archery market with the Oracle. So
I was just fascinated because I shoot a caliber. I got pins in my shoulder, so I don't shoot compounds anymore. So I shoot an Excalibur, and I use a red dot from Vortex. And that works just fine for me. There's no reticles. There's no nothing. You know, the thing is that there's angles, and I use it in the mountains. And so I get some severe angles, and I have shot under and over game at past 50 yards. Out west, folks, I'll shoot over 60 yards. 80 yards is a maximum from a good rest. I prefer 50 yards. My red dot's for 52 yards. But you throw the angle in there, and all of a sudden, it's not going to work so well. So now with your scope, you have that built right in, if I understand correctly what we shared at ATA just last week. So let's talk about specifically the Oracle bow scope.
yeah, so I'll give you the quick rundown. It's a game changer. It is going to fundamentally change how people archery hunt. And what it is it's a lot like your conventional bow sight or traditional bow sight. There's no glass in it that can scratch, fog, glare, or break. And it's got a fixed 20-yard pin that's always there. So if you're on that backcountry elk hunt, you do drop your bow in the water or something bad happens, but your hunt's not going to be over. You still have that base pin to go off of. But what you're doing is you're using that 20-yard fixed pin to range your target. The sight will then display the distance that you ranged, and it'll give you a holdover pin per your exact bow and arrow setup. And as you mentioned, that pin that it gives you does factor in angle.
Yeah, and that's huge, folks. From a tree stand, it's huge. And from shooting downhill or shooting uphill, and elk's in a dark timber, he comes above you, and it's steep.
Unfortunately, that's where they like to live, right?
Yeah, that's where they live. They don't live. And yes, you're going to see elk out in the alfalfa grazing on some private land.
Maybe early in the mornings, but that's about it.
That's about it, because then they're in the dark timber. And I can't think of any shot I've had. I think the first elk I killed, yes, it was on private land. Yes, it came through a pasture. And yes, I shot it with my rifle. I think that's the only one that it was a level shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have yet to kill one on level ground.
So why did you guys jump into the archery business? I mean, there's lots and lots of people, lots of competition. All of a sudden, somebody a few years back, because you shared with me, you've been field testing it for a year and a half or so. Why'd you guys get into this business?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been field testing the site for almost 2 years, and we've actually been developing the site for 4 years. So it was nothing all of a sudden, that's for sure. The site has been very well thought out. The engineers are all hunters. So I like to say the site's built by hunters for hunters, which is awesome. And that's why we have all those extra fail-safes built into the site. Why we got into the archery business is, I guess, one of the engineers or whoever thought up the idea just kind of saw an opportunity, got a patent on it, and started running with it. And it's kind of funny that all of us at Burris are hunters. And then after you rifle hunt for so long, you kind of look for an additional challenge. And naturally, people tend to pick up archery. So a lot of people at our company we call them closet archers, because although we build, rifle scopes, all of us are huge archery hunters. So it was just totally natural. Actually, right behind our factory in Greeley, Colorado, we have an archery range where people go shoot on their lunch breaks and stuff. So a huge culture around archery, and it was just kind of a natural transition for us, especially, like I said, since we've been building that Eliminator rifle scope for the last 10 years, actually. we already had all that technology and expertise, and it was just a matter of putting it into a bow sight.
Now, I'm thinking you mentioned fail safe. So mention some of those fail safes because people are going to say, wait a minute, there's got to be battery powered to get the laser charged up. There's got to be this, there's got to be that. And if things go to hell in a handbasket 5 miles from the trailhead, I don't want my hunt to be over.
Exactly. And yeah, that's what the engineers had in mind when they built this thing. I mean, it's built for the backcountry hunter. Like I said, if the battery does go out for whatever weird reason, I mean, the battery lasts like 1,500 draw cycles, so it's good for like 3 years. But let's say something fritzes out, you have that fixed pin. So that's the biggest fail-safe. That'll always be there. And if you look at a picture of the site, you'll know what I'm talking about with that fixed pin. And then another fail-safe that they built in is, let's say you're trying to range something out of a tree stand. Well, if you hit something too close, like a branch, what happens is you're going to get a default pin array. The site doesn't tell you, hey, the deer's at 1 yard. It says, hey, you hit something too close, either re-range or that default pin array that it gave you is actually your traditional pin site, the 20, 30, 40, the 10-yard increments that is set up for your bow. And again, considering angle.
Okay, so if I don't see that branch traditionally, and I let go, pull the trigger, or let the fingers go, then I'm going to hit that branch.
Yeah. And I mean, normally you would see it in front of you. The biggest thing is we don't want the laser rangefinder hitting that branch and then telling the person the deer is 2 yards away when it's actually 40. So the site tells you, hey, you hit something a little closer than what the deer is. You might want to range again.
So that pops up on a backlit screen or?
Up right on the normal array, on the normal LED tree. So it's kind of cool. And then you can actually get to that by, let's say you're panicking and you're trying to range and you just are freaking out for whatever reason, you got buck fever. If you hold down the range button, you can also get that default pin array.
Wow. Okay. So how do I sight my bow in?
Yeah, super simple. You dial in your 20-yard fixed pin, just like you would any traditional sight, just with the micro adjustments. You sight in a 30-yard pin using the up and down arrows, and you sight in a 40-yard pin using the up and down arrows. And then with those 3 data points, the sight basically learns your exact arrow trajectory, and it knows exactly where your arrow is going to impact out to essentially infinity, just using that trajectory curve.
So if I sort of antelope 80 yards, it's going to range them at 80 yards?
Yep. The sight will actually range out to about 350 yards. How far you can shoot depends on the speed of your bow. On my bow, I get out to about 110 yards is my furthest pin it'll give me.
Okay. So that's soft target. So it'll range out to 350. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, it's got a good rangefinder on it.
Yeah, for sure.
Better than what your bow needs.
Well, yeah. It's interesting. Where do you think this is going to take archery?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Like I said, everything in hunting is always progressing, right? People are developing new things. And the thing that I'm excited about most with this site is the ethicalness. Some people have a problem with archery hunting because they think it's not ethical. Well, this is just another one of those tools to help you be a more ethical hunter. It removes so many of the errors you can make as an archer. I know I've picked the wrong pin before. I know I hate pin gapping. I know I've tried to guess yardages, and I didn't have a rangefinder or didn't have time to range. All that's taken away with this site. So I'm really excited just to see a decrease in like wounded animals and just see more ethical hunting.
I've been known to get excited.
Yeah, man, it's easy. And then your blood starts pumping and
I flat get excited.
As you should.
Yeah. Or why, if you don't, why are you doing? So having said that, it's just with archery, with my rifle and shotgun, muzzleloader, not so much. But when I'm up close, and this year I was literally 10 feet away from deer, it gets really exciting. And so I'm thinking, okay, what do we do? How do we do it with the red dot? Where's my holdover? Because I'm at 52 and he ended up being 26 yards away because I ranged the tree after. But having said that, is the technology driving us to not be so much an instinctive hunter, or is it helping us getting right back to what you said? And I like that, the ethical hunter, to taking a shot that exactly where it's going to go. You practice, and now you're going to, when release, where the arrow's going to go.
Yeah. And you know what? I think the best answer to that is just technology is never going to replace practice, right? You still have to get out there. You still have to be comfortable with your setup. You got to put in the effort. But I will say that the sight really helps you become more comfortable and confident. So, once you've shot the bow enough with your sight, once it's dialed in, you learn to trust that dot. You really know that. But when I put the dot there, even when I'm at an angle, I just have to focus on making a good, clean release, and the arrow is going to go right to where that dot was.
Release and follow through.
That's it.
That doesn't change.
It doesn't change. Nothing changes. It's a sight on a bow. You still got to be able to shoot. It's just like with our eliminator. Some people will say, that's cheating because it gives you the exact dot. Well, guess what? You still got to be able to put the crosshairs on the target. That's never going to change.
Yeah. And if you get out there a while, I'm talking over 500 yards, then you got wind drift and you got thermals and you got a lot of different things going on than just pulling the trigger. And if you're shooting
elevation, temperature,
yeah, it doesn't stop. And then my hat's off to these guys that can dial in their rifles and shoot that distance. I don't, because I never spent the time learning 400 to 500 yards. Pretty much there. I have rifles that can shoot consistently 400 yards and everything dies. But I just never learned to do it. And people said, oh, you should try it. And yeah, I've shot long 1,000-yard rifles down at Raton with the NRA thing. And I'm going, okay, I pull the trigger, it goes bang, and then it goes gong. But it's just interesting. I digress. Being 1 year into this, where did you come from, Logan?
Yeah, so give you the quick background. I actually came to Burris from Cabela's, worked at Cabela's corporate for almost 3 years. So graduated from the University of Wisconsin out of their marketing program and got recruited by a couple of companies out of college, Ford and Harley Davidson and Cabela's. And for me, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, that was easy.
Easy. I've hunted and fished my whole life, and that's all I've ever done. So when I got an offer from Cabela's, I've always wanted to move out west too, and their headquarters was in Sydney, so it was a no-brainer. It was kind of fun. Me and my girlfriend packed up a U-Haul and then tied a car to a dolly and just sent it out west, and we haven't gone back since. And lived in Sydney, Nebraska for about 1.5 years. And then I transferred down to Cabela's digital office in Denver and lived there for 1.5 years. And now I'm up with Burris and Greeley. So it's been quite the journey so far.
Well, you had some good whitetail hunting and duck hunting along the Platte.
Oh, God. Yeah. Everywhere you go, it's what you make of it. People will say, hey, I don't have the opportunity here. I think they're lazy because anywhere I've ever lived, I've been able to find incredible hunting. It's just a matter of finding it. You got to put in the effort.
Yeah, because it's there. That I used to hunt the public land, the south side of the Platte. There's a lot of private land up there, and that's just the way it is, folks. And the mallet shooting with the waters right and everything, that used to be so much fun.
Oh man, that's what I'm doing this weekend. This is duck season for me, and I'm a duck and goose hunting freak. Geese on the Front Range is awesome, and then all along the south and North Platte, the mallard hunting's amazing as well. So this time of year after big game is over, that's all I do is duck and goose hunt. So I can totally relate.
Yeah. What kind of dog do you have?
Chocolate Lab.
Chocolate Lab. I used to have Springers and Goldens.
Nice. My last one was an English setter. So, and then Beagles before that in Wisconsin, we were big rabbit hunters. So,
where'd you come from in Wisconsin?
North central Wisconsin, a little town called Mosinee.
Mosinee, right above Wausau.
Yeah. That's crazy. You know that. Most people have no idea.
No, I know right where Wausau. I lived in Wausau. My son was born in Wausau. I caught muskies right below the dam. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Honey hole. We talked
give
about
away any dam names, but yeah.
We won't say it online.
The muskie hunting is real good up there. It's something I definitely did a lot of growing up. So.
Oh, yeah. Throwing lures and stuff like that. I had a great time when I lived in Wausau. Sometimes I think I should have stayed there and not moved my career around, but life changes and you do what you do. But that was a great town and great people. I had all the hunting and fishing that I could ever want.
Yep.
That's for sure. Yeah, I forgot we had talked about catching.
Yeah, me too. Me too until you brought it up.
I forget that. It's so much fun, folks, to talk to people that from the same area, probably fished the same rocks and the same holes. Yeah, I know we did. We're talking muskies. I know we're fishing the same waters. When you look at a product, you've been beta testing it or field testing it for almost 2 years. Now, so somebody says, Logan, here it is, and we want you to go out and shoot it. So take me through the steps, what you had to do to, one, get comfortable, and then that first buck or that first doe that you took with it. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, just shoot. I would like to say I'm a pretty good beta tester because I'm really rough on stuff. I think that's key. And I said it before, the sights are made by hunters for hunters, and it's super durable. That's one thing that I was a little bit skeptical on at first because we talked a little bit too about the public and private land debates, and I hunt all public out here. And it's all in Colorado. You got to work for it. It's backcountry. Where my tent goes up is 8 miles from my truck. And then I walk another call it 5 each day from there. So, I mean, I'm deep and the gear's got to be able to stand up. So beta testing the site was a lot of fun, just shot it a lot. And then, like you said, being able to kind of out here in Colorado, unfortunately, I can't even legally use the site. So I actually got to use it for the first time this year was in Nebraska and back in Wisconsin on my whitetail hunt. And I was able to harvest a pretty nice buck on my whitetail hunt back in Wisconsin with it. And like you said, I was just shooting it a lot and got comfortable with it. And I ended up shooting my buck in Wisconsin at about 8 yards. It was just straight down. I was about 30 feet up in the tree. And it was so cool. Normally, I would be kind of thinking about, okay, 8 yards. Normally, that's down where like my 40-yard pin is, but then the angle's going to bring it back up. Well, rather than trying to do all that in my head, I just ranged it. And that gave me a dot for about 27. I put it right behind the thing's shoulder. Just focused on making a clean release and followed through and then just watched the arrow plow right through the shoulder and it was over. I mean, it was perfect. So it's nice just being able to focus on the shot. And once you trust it, it's a one heck of a tool.
That sounds like it. I mean, think about that and not having to go through the mental gymnastics.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Do I hold under? Do I hold over? How do I do that? Extreme angles. You were at, if you was at 8 yards, you were very extreme angle. And so it turned out, even though it was 8 yards line of sight, did you hold over or hold under?
I didn't have to hold any. The bow sight calculated it all for me. So I held on.
Just spot on.
Spot on. It factors in angle.
So you didn't have to worry about all the things that I just said. So you just said, okay, that's where it is. You have the confidence in it. So we're talking about folks, they get the tools, they get the sight, but you have to learn it. So you just do what you're doing, muscle memory, and then you go and say, okay, that's where the dot is, and that's where I'm going to release and hold, breathe, hold. And
another one of the big benefits of the site, right, is we've all been there before, especially out when you're spot and stalk hunting out west. That pesky rangefinder's got a way of losing itself. I mean,
no.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I've lost 2 of them in the last 3 years. And I don't know how many times I've been belly crawling like antelope hunting and then go up to get my rangefinder and realize I left it 50 feet back. So I'm reverse crawling through cactuses to try to go back and get it. There's no more of that. One less thing to lose and forget batteries on or whatever. And then the other thing is, I mean, this is obvious, but the ability to range at full draw, it cannot be overemphasized. It is awesome to be able to sit there at full draw and just range something. Your whitetail podcast. So a good example I use is, no more grunting at bucks to stop them. And then they're all weary and they string jump you. You just wait for them to stop walking. Just be at full draw, range. As soon as they stop, let the arrow go.
Now, Vortex, when I range with my Vortex furries, then I hold it down and no matter which way it goes, it'll keep changing. If it's coming at me, then it's 50, 40, 30, 20 yards. So do you have to keep the button suppressed or the activator suppressed to range the distance as he's coming closer or further away? Or how does that work?
Every time you tap it, it gives you an instantaneous range or near instantaneous range and pin. So as he's walking, you just tap, tap, tap. And the reason we didn't make it so you have to hold it is because you don't want to have a closed hand when you're shooting a bow. You want to be nice and released, relaxed.
Okay, so I just tap it with my thumb then?
You can put the activator switch wherever you want. You just stick a little piece of Velcro there. A lot of people do it right on the front of the grip. I actually put mine around the right side of the grip so my pinky taps it. And that's totally up to you. You can put it wherever you want.
No, right pinky. Are you left-handed then?
Well, your left-hand grip, right? I'm a
left-hand grip.
shooter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you said your right pinky. Because that's on the release, right?
No. The activator switch is on your grip of your bow. So it's my left hand. It's on the right side of my grip is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So the activator's right on someplace on your grip, on your riser. It's there naturally, if you want to say. So you just keep tapping it. And then as I walk into your front, I like what you said. You just let them stop naturally rather than go buck.
Yeah. They're sitting there ears up, ready. Then they hear that string twang and they're
twang.
They'll duck your arrow and jump up faster than the arrow can even get there. And again, that's just the ethical part of it.
How did deer do that? How did they move so fast? And I got a great story I'll share with you. But
you got to remember, they make their living every single day in the woods. So they got to be quick. And man, are they ever.
I mean, you see slow-mo and they'll actually, Billy hits the ground and the arrow goes over him.
Yeah. And then sometimes they even have time to get back up and over the arrow by the time it gets there.
The best story I have of this, I was hunting in Colorado, archery hunting, elk and mule deer, and I had a great bench. I love hunting benches. I love hunting elevation breaks, benches, however you want to say it, changes in elevation.
Yeah.
Edge cover and changes in elevation. I can just about go any place. And if I can find those two things, I will find the game if it's there. Now, it might not be there. If it's not there, it's not there. But anyway, so he came up, just a gorgeous, gorgeous 4-point Western count. And so he knew I was there instinctively. He couldn't see me because I was in a tree stand, actually, and I had cut out a pine. I covered up. He came. He was broadside, about 30 yards. I was just right settled in, picked my spot, aim small, hit small, blah, blah, blah. I let that arrow go, and the bow wasn't as fast as they are now, but it doesn't matter. And he completely spun around, and I hit the off shoulder. So he's coming up, and so I got his right shoulder. I'm shooting behind, and so it hit his left shoulder. He completely turned inside out, and the arrow just kind of bobbing. It didn't penetrate. It hit him, but it was so fast. I went, "Are you kidding me?" And he just bailed out down the mountain. I waited a while, went down, picked up my arrow. There was some blood in it, but there was no blood past the broadhead. But I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I had
How
something
fast
similar.
you do that?
I had something similar happen to me, mule deer hunting, spot and stalk in Nebraska. And people, if you've hunted long enough, eventually you're going to have that unfortunate where you wound something or you miss that buck. And man, once you have that happen, that never leaves you. I mean, I lost sleep over it for a couple of days. And that's where the ability to have the sight just give me an extra tool for me is kind of a no-brainer.
So what happened in Nebraska?
Yeah, so I was used to hunting back in Wisconsin. I used to shoot. You could get away with carbon arrows and expandable broadheads, and then started hunting out in Nebraska. And I was using the same equipment, and I quickly learned that it wasn't even that far of a shot. 60 yards. That's not ridiculous. The deer had no idea I was there. He wasn't alert. I let an arrow go. It was a good shot. It was a little bit back. It caught first rib, and when that lighter arrow hit and that broadhead opened, it just stopped on the rib. And the arrow, he ran and the arrow just kind of flopped around, like you said, and it fell out. And, there was a little bit of snow cover on the ground. So, I tracked the thing for like 6 hours. Like I spent all night tracking the thing, and there were just pinpricks. And eventually the blood ran out, and man, I lost sleep over it. It was brutal. And then from that day, I have never shot a carbon arrow again. I only shoot micro diameter FMJs, and I only shoot fixed broadheads. It might be overkill, but I will do everything I can to never experience that again.
And let's talk about weight forward and a minimum. What do you think your minimum arrow weight is now?
Man, it's heavy. It's as heavy as I can make it. I don't have an exact
500
cranage. Yeah, it'd be right around there. And then again, I got my bow cranked all the way up. I shoot a diamond deploy. I got it cranked up to 75 pounds and 85% let off. And do everything I can to make a good shot.
Yeah. And a long time ago, when I started hunting out west, which I lived in Wisconsin and I hunted, my first elk hunts were from Wisconsin. And I used Barry Rocky Mountain Supremes, fixed blade, 3-blade, fixed blade, heavy.
Cut on contact.
And I never had a problem. If I made a bad shot, and yes, folks, I've made bad shots. And I've lost one elk, and just because I hit it too high. He died, but I hit it too high. And then it rained overnight. It was ugly, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. But with weight forward and shooting quote unquote heavy arrows, speed kills, yes. But when you get to heavy bone animals, it just doesn't work. And kinetic energy, and if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about that, because some listeners say, no, I can get away with mechanicals and stuff. Yes, you can. On some game, there's no problem. You start getting heavier game, bigger game, there's issues. So why don't you address that kinetic energy bit?
Yeah. So my take on things is when I go back to Wisconsin, I don't switch arrows. I still shoot my micro diameter FMJs because that's what my bow's tuned for. But I do switch to mechanicals when I go to Wisconsin because my shots are going to be inside 30 yards and that game is a lot smaller, right? Out west hunting, you don't know. Spot and stalk hunting, you can have a little bit further shots when it's open, especially in places like Nebraska. And then, you're right. You said the magic words, kinetic energy. That's what it comes down to. A heavy arrow. Another thing, those mechanicals, when that mechanical opens, that's slowing down your energy. That's lessening your kinetic energy. So anything you can do to increase kinetic energy, which is basically a factor of your speed and then your weight. So more speed, more weight, more better.
That's pretty much it, folks. And FMG's full metal jackets. And I used to shoot all the Eastern line aluminum arrows, and it was heavy gear, but I got my game.
If you're worried about arrow drop, you shouldn't be shooting that far, in my opinion, anyways. And not on game, at least. You want to shoot at targets, shoot at them all day.
Right. You have to know your kill zone.
Yeah.
That's basically it. And with my crossbow that's extended, well, the furthest elk I shot was probably just at 50 yards.
Yeah, I wouldn't shoot anything further than 50, especially a bigger game like elk, right? So
yeah. And he died.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much the furthest that I was comfortable, and everything was right there. But when you throw everything at him, because everything's slowing down, as soon as you release that arrow, it's slowing down a lot faster than the bullet. The bullet slows down as soon as it leaves the muzzle too. And so everything's working against you. Gravity's working against you. Just think about that, folks. Now's the time that you're thinking, hey, the new stuff's out. We got great scopes. How does somebody get a hold of you guys at Burris Optics?
Yeah, you can check out our website at burrisoptics.com. Otherwise, all the social media is all the handles are Burris Optics. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Otherwise, you can always call into our customer service department. That's another thing that I think separates our company from some of the other companies out there. Our customer service team's incredible. They're always there for you. And all of our products are backed by that Burris Forever warranty. So no questions asked. If something goes wrong, we'll either repair it or replace it.
Folks, in the warm-up, Logan and I were talking, and back in 1971, Doug Burris left Redfield, and I moved out to Colorado, got transferred out here to go to work, and it was kind of funny. They said, you can have Kansas City or Colorado.
How tough was that?
24 hours later, I was in Colorado. And I stayed here. I've lived here or Montana in a short period of time in California. But nonetheless, Doug Burris started something. He was an employee at Redfield. He worked at Redfield. Then he left. And Redfield, you don't hear about Redfield anymore. Doesn't exist, as far as I know.
Right.
But Burris, a guy started off and said, wait a minute, I can build a better mousetrap. I can do something better. I can take what I've learned and work through it and build a company. And that was in 1971. And so when you think about opportunities in the industry, you've got a guy like Logan, went to school at Madison, great school, good football team. I went to the University of Wisconsin lacrosse, great school, great football team, just a heck of a lot smaller school. But it was on the Mississippi River, so I had better duck hunting.
That's true.
I had great duck hunting.
Yep.
Anyway, but when you think about that, you have an idea, you have a passion, and that's what it takes. Logan has a passion for the outdoors. I have a passion for the outdoors, or I wouldn't be doing this. You can look at my pictures and my whitetail and my wolf, and you can see a turkey back there, and then there's all other stuff in the other room. But those are just reminders of the moment, of the journey. And I look at young guys like Logan, and he loves getting in on the Platte River and hunting mallards and just listen to whistling wings, even in the dark. And he knows the birds are working. And this is going to be a good day. Then the sun comes up and the fun starts. But you think about that, and coming back from ATA, you get the ATA blush because you realize you're part of a huge industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Millions of people are in it and a part of it. And if you're a guy that just buys a bow and some camo and goes out hunting, you're part of something special. You're part of fraternity of people, of hunters. And one thing I'll just add right now, I had a lot of conversations with different people at AT about we've got to be our own best friends. Yes, we can talk about Fords and Chevys. Okay. You can talk about Matthews and Prime and Hoyt, and okay, fine. That's marketing and brand and what you like to shoot. I like to shoot Excalibur. Okay. That's fine. But there's 10 Point and Barnett, and there's a lot of great crossbow companies. But when we start slamming each other on social media and say, oh, you shouldn't have shoot that doe, or why'd you let that kid shoot that spike buck, or whatever, right, we're hurting ourselves. Your thoughts on this, Logan? I'm kind of taking this a little different way, but I want a young person's insight because you're the future of this industry. I mean, you're the future of Burris or whatever you end up doing.
I appreciate that. But we're under so much pressure and scrutiny from people outside our industry. The last thing we need is to be our own worst critics. You know what I'm saying? Well, like you said, we need to have each other's backs, and people are all in it for different things. I may be into hunting. I've been doing it since I've been a little kid. So maybe I'm out there only shooting drakes this weekend, but I'm not going to come down on somebody who is shooting hens because they're just in it for something different. Maybe they're in it for the meat, or maybe they're just in it for the experience. Everybody's in it for something different. You just got to step back and remember that sometimes.
Yeah, and with everybody going off on organic, and like I told you, I talked to a guy in France today. I had a podcast with a veterinarian in France that was a wildlife photographer. Up to 3 years ago, he had never hunted. But then because as a photographer, he realized that the hunters knew where the game was, how they traveled, what all their behaviors were, so he could get close up in running activity of chamois. And he said, I wouldn't have be a hunter today without hunters reaching out and helping me be a better photographer.
That's exactly it. I mean, I see it all the time from like chefs. A lot of chefs are the wild game is the new quote unquote thing. That's just how I've ate my whole life. I haven't bought red meat in the store for 5 years, at least. Growing up, we never had it. I had it in college a little bit just because it was a quick fast food meal or whatever. But now you see chefs wanting to get into hunting and get the wild game. And I think that's awesome. It's another avenue to bring new people into the sport and into the culture. It's more than a sport, right? It's a heritage. So it's so cool to hear you talk about how the duck wings are whistling in the morning, because I can just see it happening in my head.
Well, yeah, you get chills. I still get.
Oh, you do. And if people could just experience some of the stuff that we've experienced as true outdoorsmen, I think more people would be into it. And that's a big initiative right now at Burris. Is our hashtag is find what matters, and it's so much more than just making a kill. And I think if a lot of non-hunters understood that, they would be a lot more respectful and understanding of hunters and our lifestyle. So we just actually did a film with this company out of Utah called V6 Media, and it's called The Rookie. And it's such a cool idea. Basically, you take this guy who's never hunted before and walk him through the whole process of buying a tag, teaching him how to shoot, taking him out there archery hunting. And he didn't get one with the bow, but then they took him out there gun hunting, and he ended up getting one with the gun. Taking him through the field processing all the way through, he finally took a bite of his first wild game. And that's so cool. We need to do more of that. We need to get more people into the sports.
Yeah, and many states now have 3 R's, recruitment, retention, and reactivation. The 3 R's, you're going to hear more about that, folks. My upcoming co-host, Minna Caulfield, she's very active with that, with the state of Minnesota. Logan, this has been so much fun. And with that, any last words for the people about Burris Optics?
Just like I said, you can find us on our social media and our website. You can look up stuff like the Oracle and that Eliminator range-finding rifle scope that I was telling you about. And other than that, I think the thing that we talked about last is probably the most important. We need to be each other's best friends and not worst critics, and just support each other. And we're, like I said, we're under enough scrutiny from outsiders. So it's important that we support things like gun rights and public land usage and stay on top of stuff like that, because it tends to be a slippery slope. And before you know it, it could be gone. So.
And with that, folks, I want to say thank Logan Holtz from Burris Optics for being a guest this evening on A Whitetail Rendezvous.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.